Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Tuesday Coffee with Dr. Anna. I'm Dr. Anna Armstrong, and every Tuesday we sit down together, coffee in hand, to decode what's really happening in the global markets. Not the noise, not the panic, not the social media hype, but the real institutional forces moving money around the world. And this week, markets are absolutely packed with major stories. We have AI stocks surging again, oil moving sharply on geopolitical tensions, a potential historic SpaceX IPO, and investors trying to figure out whether this market rally still has room to run. So let's dive in. First, the broader market picture. US truck futures are trading higher this morning, with the S&P 500 staying near record highs above 7,500, while the Nasdaq continues to outperform thanks to AI-driven momentum. But what's interesting is that this rally is becoming more concentrated around a few massive names. And the king of this market right now remains Nvidia. Nvidia has become the symbol of the AI boom. The company's valuation has exploded as demand for AI chips, data centers, and cloud infrastructure continues accelerating globally. Analysts are now discussing Nvidia almost like the oil company of the AI era. But Nvidia is not alone. We're also seeing strong moves in Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and semiconductor infrastructure names like ASML. The market is basically saying one thing right now: AI infrastructure is the new gold rush. And here's the important part: this is no longer just about chatbots. AI is now driving spending in semiconductors, cloud computing, energy demand, cybersecurity, and even telecommunications. That's why institutional investors continue pouring money into the sector despite concerns about valuations. Now let's move to the second major story: oil. Brent crude oil has surged toward $98 a barrel following renewed tensions involving Iran and ongoing uncertainty in the Middle East. And this matters enormously because oil affects almost everything: inflation, transport, airlines, food prices, consumer spending, interest rates. When oil rises sharply, markets immediately start worrying that inflation could stay higher for longer, and that puts pressure on the Federal Reserve. Right now, investors are trying to balance two competing forces. On one side, AI optimism and strong corporate earnings. On the other, higher energy costs, geopolitical uncertainty, and inflation risk. That's why markets feel bullish, but nervous at the same time. Now let's talk about one of the biggest stories on Wall Street this week: the potential SpaceX IPO. Yes, Elon Musk's SpaceX has officially filed paperwork for what could become the biggest IPO in modern financial history. Some reports are discussing valuations approaching $1.7 trillion. Think about that for a moment. A space company potentially valued higher than most countries' GDP. And investors are fascinated not just by rockets, they're fascinated by Starlink, satellite internet, AI infrastructure, space based computing, and Musk's broader vision linking AI, energy, communications, and space together. Now, personally, I think investors need to remain disciplined here. Excitement does not always equal value. History shows that many blockbuster IPOs initially generate huge hype, but later underperform broader markets. Reuters analysis this week highlighted that many recent mega IPOs lagged the S&P 500 after listing. So while SpaceX is an extraordinary company, valuation and execution still matter, always. Now let's look at a few stocks I'm personally watching this week. Tesla remains extremely important because it often acts as a proxy for investor risk appetite and Elon Musk's sentiment overall. Tesla has been recovering recently as investors rotate back into growth names. Rocket Lab has also gained attention because investors see it as a possible secondary beneficiary of the growing excitement around the space economy and the upcoming SpaceX listing. Now let's discuss risk, because this is where many retail investors get trapped. When markets rise rapidly, people begin believing risk has disappeared, but risk never disappears. It only changes form. Today's biggest risks are overvaluation in AI stocks, oil-driven inflation, geopolitical escalation, and the possibility that interest rates stay elevated longer than markets expect. That's why intelligent investing today requires more than hype. It requires structure, risk management, position sizing, patience, and the ability to think independently. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's Tuesday Coffee with Dr. Anna. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments, would you invest in the SpaceX IPO? Or do you think AI and tech valuations are becoming overheated? Have a beautiful week ahead, enjoy your coffee, and I'll see you next Tuesday.